is a Beach Glass Media production.
Last week, more than 8 million people turned out to protest across all 50 states against a power-hungry political dictator in what is known as the No Clings protests. That's right, folks. News organizations across this country have reported that in this third installment of the No Clings protests, the U.S. showed around 3,300 demonstrations for protesting no clings. For those of you unfamiliar with the no clings protests, and to those of you who are looking at me kind of funny because you think I am mispronouncing a certain word when I say cling, a cling is, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a Dravidian, probably of Tamil origin, of the seaports of southeastern Asia and Malaysia. For those of you who are extremely uncultured, Dravidian peoples are an ethno-linguistic group native to South Asia, numbering over 250 million, who speak languages within the Dravidian family. Primarily located in southern India and parts of Sri Lanka, they are linked to the ancient Indus Valley civilization and possess a distinct cultural, linguistic, and genetic heritage. Now, I know what you must be thinking. Andrew, there's no such thing as no clings protests. And Andrew, there's not one single no clings protest that has ever taken place in the United States. And to you I say, what kind of a preposterous idea is that? Of course we should encourage people to organize in a grassroots fashion to come together and protest all the clings that are trying to take over America because, well, we live in a democracy, dagnabbit, and I, for one, am not going to let a bunch of clings take over this beautiful, providentially created country that God has blessed us with. No, sir, I will not stand for clings to take over this country just to see clings run it to the ground. No way. And for that I say, let's rally together and proclaim no clings in the United States, no clings to govern our lives. All clings have got to go. No clings. Okay, look. I know if we do this, people are going to think we're a bunch of weirdos since, in reality, there really are no clings trying to take over the country right now. But let's face it, if the United States hasn't had a king controlling the country for 250 years and people are turning out to protest some imaginary king, then why can't we band together and protest imaginary clings too? My name is Andrew Reyes, and this is Faith in Politics with me, Andrew Reyes. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for coming back. I am very grateful, and I just want to welcome you back. If you're still listening to me and still showing up to this podcast, congratulations, because I think you're one of the cool ones. But, if you just stumbled onto this podcast, thank you also. Maybe you'll like it. What I do here is I start off the podcast with a satire at the beginning, which you just heard. And then, I touch on a faith-based topic. I'm a Christian. And then a political topic, things that are going on in U.S. politics. So thank you. Thank you for joining me. I noticed that my previous episode, episode 23, it got a bunch of views, surprisingly. And I don't know if it's like the way YouTube is trying to sucker me into staying and producing videos, but it reached a lot of people, and it's a little bit encouraging. Gives me a little extra ounce of encouragement to keep doing this. So hopefully you stick around. Hopefully you like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff, because I would appreciate that. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this podcast. I try to keep it fun. Try to keep it lively. That's my goal, is to have fun with it. Hopefully you have fun too. And yeah, feel free to leave a comment in the comments section. And once again, this is a video podcast available on YouTube. Thank you if you're watching on YouTube. It's also on Spotify. And of course, you can still listen to the audio version. Right now, it's only on audio or Apple Podcasts. You can listen to this podcast, but it's audio only on Apple Podcasts. But like I said, video on YouTube, video on Spotify. If you want to see what I look like, I'm just a normal looking dude, just brown skin, black hair, black beard. I don't know. Do I look like a pirate? Well, funny story. I was a pirate. I grew up in San Pedro, and in high school we were the San Pedro Pirates. So I guess I am a pirate. But anyway, please follow the Instagram page. I'm on Instagram. You can connect with me there. And on there, I post satirical headlines, kind of like how the Babylon Bee does. Hey, you might find it interesting, and you'll stay up to date on new episodes and things like that. So make sure to like the Faith and Politics with Andrew Reyes Instagram page. So with that out of the way, we're going to go into today's episode. And like I promised, I think I've been doing really good. I've been trying to get these episodes to be short and sweet. And it's kind of, it's not so easy to do. I get carried away sometimes. I'm trying to cut down on the jibber jabber, trying to get more to the point, be a little more straightforward. And I've been succeeding, because I noticed the first video podcast, it was about an hour. Then the second video podcast, I trimmed it down 10 minutes. And then the third podcast, I trimmed that down 10 more minutes. So they're getting shorter and shorter. So you got to have goals in life. I got my goal, which is to make these podcasts short and sweet. So let's just dive into it. Today's podcast is called No Kings, except the Resurrected one, of course. So here we go. What am I going to talk about today? Well, I did the No Kings satire opening. So, sorry, I'm a little hoarse for some reason. I wasn't even screaming or anything like that. I just started my vacation week from work, and I don't know. My voice is feeling a little weird. Hopefully I don't sound weird on the mic, but yeah, I'm on vacation. Hopefully I knock out a few more episodes, and hopefully you enjoy. But yeah, I want to talk about Easter. Tomorrow is Easter, the day I'm recording this on Saturday. It's the day before Easter, so I wanted to talk about Easter. What is Easter, and what is the controversy around it? There seems to be controversy. I hear people say, "Oh, Easter is a pagan holiday. It's not a Christian holiday." And to you, I say, you're wrong. It is a Christian holiday. And that's what I'm going to explain. So like I was saying, I did the No King satire at the beginning. I try to open up with satire because I like jokes. I like to be funny. And I think satire is a way to help get an idea across. And then, you can't claim that I'm being mean or offensive, because then I could just say, oh, it was just a joke. Relax. I know it's a little sleight of hand trick, but we'll talk about No Kings after the faith portion. So the faith portion of this podcast is on Easter. So Easter, is Easter in the Bible? No, it's not in the Bible. So why do we celebrate it? I'm gonna get to that. It's very simple. I'm a simple man. I like to give simple answers, but I'm gonna dive a little deep into this Easter thing. Is Easter a man-made holiday? Yeah, I guess it is. So the question is, if Easter is not in the Bible and it's a man-made holiday, then maybe we shouldn't celebrate Easter. What is Easter? If it's not from the Bible, it can't be good. Well, no, not necessarily. We got to ask ourselves, does the Bible prohibit celebrating man-made holidays? No, not explicitly. One good argument that can be made is that Jesus celebrated man-made holidays, or at least one man-made holiday that we read about in the book of John, the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verses 22 to 23. We see that Jesus is walking through the temple in Jerusalem during the holiday mentioned, called the Feast of Dedication, which, that's known today as Hanukkah. And Hanukkah is a man-made festival. So this Feast of Dedication is a man-made holiday or a festival. And, the argument is that, Jesus was there at that time. He walked through the temple during this holiday called the Feast of Dedication. And, he didn't say anything negative about it. And so it's not like he's forbidding people to take part in certain celebrations that are man-made. But of course, the Feast of Dedication, it's a dedication to God. It was a holy feast. So it was to honor God in their tradition in that day and time. So with all that said, we can conclude there's nothing necessarily wrong with celebrating man-made holidays such as Easter because, Easter essentially is used to glorify God because Easter is about the resurrection. That's just a fact. And, it makes me think about right now about I believe it's the Jehovah's Witnesses. I think they don't celebrate birthdays, which, I always thought that was weird. And I think the idea is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they don't want people to celebrate themselves because it seems very self-righteous, maybe narcissistic, or taken away from worshiping God. Maybe they see it as a worship of self, which, I disagree. I don't think it's wrong to celebrate birthdays. I think it's, when you celebrate someone getting older, that's a precious thing. Life is precious. God gave us life and we age, we grow older. And I think it's a beautiful thing to celebrate people getting older. As people age and get older, they reach different levels of maturity. You see how people change. I see this with my kids. It's the greatest thing is seeing my kids grow up. My youngest is now 6 years old. And, sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I miss the 3-year-old age when she was 3 and she was a little easier and fun, and seeing her just learn about the world and explore and learn things. It's a beautiful thing. And now that she's 6 years old, it's like, oh, that 3-year-old part of her is gone. She's changed. And it's a little bit sad because it kind of feels like you're losing someone that you once knew. But no, it's the same person. They're just growing. The goal is to grow and mature. And as we get older, that's the goal, is to grow and mature, because nobody wants to be a child forever. I mean, I don't. But, Easter is just a celebration. And there's nothing inherently wrong with celebrating holidays, even man-made holidays. Because Easter is, we glorify God. We celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. Now, some people would say, what about its pagan roots? And another popular thing I see floating around out there is that Easter derives from the Mesopotamian god Ishtar. They say Easter is from Ishtar. So the simple answer to that is, No. Ishtar has nothing to do with Easter. There's no link at all. The link that people try to fabricate is that, well, it sounds very similar, so Easter comes from Ishtar. And no, they just sound the same, and there's nothing more to it. You know, Ishtar wasn't a feast or a celebration. It's just funny to think about that people try to do some mental gymnastics to make that work. But Ishtar was a mystical Mesopotamian deity. Ishtar was portrayed as a beautiful goddess of war and love in the Mesopotamian era, if you want to use that word. Ishtar was the protector of temple prostitutes. Ew! Ishtar was also known as a patroness of the ale house. So maybe you heavy drinkers would have really liked Ishtar. They're just jokes, people. Relax. But ask yourself, what does a mythical Mesopotamian sex goddess have to do with the resurrection of an actual historical figure? Anyone? Yeah, nothing. There's no relationship between Ishtar, this mythical goddess, and the resurrection of Jesus. Like, there's nothing there. Mesopotamia ended around 500 or 400 BC, and Easter was started by the Christians. So, and it started because of the resurrection, of course. So one can say Easter is actually anti-pagan. You know, Easter is not pagan. It's anti-pagan. It goes against anything pagan. But you might be asking, well, Andrew, what about the bunny? The bunny. Well, are we worshiping the Easter bunny when we go egg hunting? No. Yeah, you know, we know that historically bunnies are a symbol of, you know, fertility. But no, we're not worshiping fertility. Excuse me, my throat. And the Easter egg thing, well, you know, that has more to do with Lent than bunnies. You know, in the Catholic tradition, there's a tradition of Lent before Easter, and Christians would fast. They would, and since they couldn't eat eggs, what would they do with their eggs? They didn't want them to spoil. They would hard boil eggs in order to preserve them, because, you know, who wants to throw away perfectly good eggs? Not me. So they preserved them, and I would imagine that they started coloring at some point just for fun. So yeah, there's no worship of the bunny or the eggs. It's just for fun. I mean, I don't know. Why are people so against fun? But if you Google Easter definition, the AI overview will tell you the following. Easter, or Resurrection Sunday, is the principal Christian festival celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, occurring on the third day after his crucifixion by Romans around 30 AD. It marks the culmination of the Passion of Jesus, preceded by Lent, a 40-day period of fasting and prayer. It signifies victory over sin and death, offering hope for eternal life. So, surprisingly, Google is correct. I'm actually very surprised that Google gives you all of that at the very top of the search. Basically, Easter is a Christian holiday. Okay, Easter is about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But I just want to close the faith portion with just some quick thoughts about Easter. Now, we know culturally in America, the Easter Bunny seemed to have overshadowed the Christian traditional view. However, I want to make the correlation with something I talked about on a previous episode about the cross necklace. I think my opinion on Easter is similar to the cross necklace. So what was my opinion on the cross necklace? Well, the cross symbol, I feel like, culturally, like in modern society, has been hijacked as a fashion trend. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if young people wear a cross necklace and don't even know what it represents, or know about its origins. However, to me, it shows that at a minimum, the cross is recognized as something with meaning, obviously. And my hope is that individuals will somehow one day actually think about the symbol of the cross and its historical meaning. Because the cross was basically the death penalty. It was like the electric chair, as an example. And we don't see people wearing electric chairs around their necks. I'm going to let those sirens go. I hope it's not picking up on the mic. The police are going down the main street here. That's annoying, ruining my train of thought. But like I was saying, you don't see people wearing electric chairs around their neck, but we see people wear crosses for fashion, as jewelry. And I wonder, do they know that was basically a torture device? It was the death penalty for thieves and all sorts of bad people. But the reason why we wear it, or why people wear the cross as jewelry, it's definitely not because they think about executions. I'm sure non-Christians wear it all the time, but we know the historical meaning of it, that it's a representation of what Jesus did on the cross. It is a Christian symbol, and we do live in a Christian culture, especially in the United States. And the cross represents the crucifixion of Jesus. But it also, to me, even though I'm not a huge fan of wearing religious jewelry, and it used to kind of bother me. I don't let it bother me because I know it's the promise of salvation through Jesus for the entire human race. So it takes on a new meaning when I see the cross necklace. So I think about it the same way for Easter. Is people celebrate Easter. Yeah, they may do the Easter bunny. Yeah, they may paint some eggs and do the egg hunt. But that's just for fun. We should know, especially as Christians, that it is a Christian holiday and it is about the resurrection of Jesus. So the Easter bunny, kind of like Santa Claus, Santa Claus is not what Christmas is about. And I heard people say, oh, you bring a tree into the house and you decorate it. That's very pagan. And to those people, I say, newsflash, I'm not getting down on my hands and knees and worshiping the tree. No, it's just a fun tradition. Easter Bunny's the same. The Tooth Fairy is the same. We don't really believe there's an actual Tooth Fairy. It's a game you play with the kids, with Christmas and Santa Claus, we know that we want to encourage good behavior with children. So we tell them, you got to be good because Santa's watching you. And if you're a good boy or girl, you're going to get more presents. Same thing, with the tooth fairy. Oh, losing your teeth is scary, but you can put your tooth under the pillow and you're going to get some money from the tooth fairy. How exciting is that? So it's a game. The way I see it, it's a game we play with our kids. No, I don't believe in a magical fat man in the sky that wears a red suit. It's just a game. It's just a game. And the Easter Bunny, I really don't know what the Easter Bunny is all about. I get it. Bunny's sign of fertility. But the Easter Bunny, when I picture people going to the mall to take their kids to sit on the bunny's lap and take a picture, that to me has always been weird. That's just me. But it's fun for kids. So the point I want to make is that these cultural traditions are okay. They're just for fun. But as long as we know the true reason for celebrating Easter, which is the resurrection of Jesus Christ, then I don't see anything wrong with partaking in these man-made holidays with man-made traditions. Like I said, just like I see non-Christians wear the cross necklace, culturally it tells me that Christianity is still influencing the culture in some kind of way. Because we all know the origins of the cross symbol. And Easter, as long as it's celebrated, it reminds me that, in the current culture, yes, Easter does have a greater meaning than the Easter Bunny and the eggs, but I hope that the symbolic meaning of Easter transcends pop culture. And I think it's very possible. The polls show that a lot of people are returning to church and the faith and to Christianity. And that's a really good thing. I hope that trend keeps moving forward. So with all that said, happy Easter. And if you say Resurrection Sunday, that's great too. My point is just that Easter is about the resurrection. Easter is a Christian holiday. It was started by the Christians, and we celebrate Easter because Jesus is alive. So that's enough of the faith section of this podcast. I need to go lightning speed in this political section. So I'm going to try to go really fast on the politics side of this podcast. So first of all, I want to give a quick update on Iran, or Iran, for those of you that might be thinking I say it dumb. Deal with it. But I've been talking a lot about Iran since I started the video podcast. Of course, this podcast has been going on since I think I started in 2024. But the last video podcast, I've been touching on Iran because I think what's going on with that whole Operation Epic Fury, it's interesting. I'm just staying in tune. So this is what I've gathered. This is the latest on Iran. On April 2nd, the UK rallied together 40 plus countries to coordinate diplomatic, economic pressure on Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Now this is pretty good because, Trump was going on saying, I can't believe all these countries don't want to help assist in this operation. The U.S. does so much for you. We take care of NATO countries. And I can't believe no one's stepping up to the plate alongside with us. Now, granted, this was Trump's thing. The other countries don't have an obligation to do anything like that. But for everything the United States does for the world, it would be nice if other countries cooperated. So the latest is that the UK kind of did come together, and 40 countries are trying to be diplomatic about what's going on because, well, the Strait of Hormuz has to open up. We got to get that oil flowing. Oil makes the world go round. So, Trump said the other week, or was it earlier this week, that, hey, the U.S. has oil. If you guys need oil, you could buy it from us. If not, go figure it out yourself. That might sound harsh, but come on, you can't have Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz, especially with all their missiles and stuff that they've been launching all over the place there. The regime is crazy. Got to say this every time. The Iranian people, great people. They have good values. It's just the regime that is crazy. Let's see what else has happened. The U.S. Navy's aircraft carrier rejoins the mission in Operation Epic Fury, which that's pretty cool. It makes me want to play Battleship with my kids. Remember Battleship? Yeah, I missed that game. I'm going to have to try to buy it and I can play with my kids. But all these ships going back into that area, it's pretty cool. Let's see. The last thing Trump said, that he's claiming that it's going to take a little more time to open the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I said let him cook, right? I said let him cook. That's what the young people say nowadays, which means let him do his thing. Let him do his thing. He said it was going to take 5 weeks. We're ending week 5, okay? So, something's got to give. Something's got to happen. So, let's see what has been happening. On April 3rd, a U.S. fighter jet went down. And then the U.S. then mobilized a rescue mission, and they found at least one of the 2 pilots that went down in that first plane that got shot down. Crazy stuff. Then a second U.S. combat plane went down in southern Iran, and thankfully that pilot was rescued. So we're still searching for, the first pilot from the first jet that went down. And then a Black Hawk helicopter that was rescued, or a Black Hawk helicopter that rescued a downed pilot was hit by Iranian gunfire. And it wounded some crew members, but they were able to make an emergency landing and treat the crew members. So a lot of stuff happening. Crazy, crazy stuff. And then today, April 4th, it's the day I'm recording this, Trump went on Truth Social, his wannabe Twitter, and he stated this: "Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal or open up the Hormuz Strait? Time is running out. 48 hours before all hell will rain down on them. Glory be to God." I should have read that in Trump's voice. "Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal?" Oh, sorry, that was terrible. I just thought it was funny that in his little post he wrote, "Glory be to God." It's kind of, it's funny to think Trump saying those kinds of things because, I don't know. Yeah, he's very pro, Christianity. He's one of the most pro freedom of religion presidents we've had, but it's questionable whether he's really Christian. But then again, who are we to say who's Christian, who's not? But seeing Trump post, "Glory be to God," it's just kind of funny. So yeah, crazy stuff happening over there in the Middle East. Hopefully he wraps this up. He says he needs a little more time. Hopefully he's right about that, because I think the American people are getting restless over this. Now, is this a forever war? I still don't think so. I don't see this being similar to the war in Iraq, where that was labeled a forever war. This is different, and I don't think, or I have no reason to believe this is going to be another forever war, but let's just wait and see. That's all I can say. What do I think? Well, I think we have to put our seatbelts on now, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. But hopefully this operation finishes really quick. That's my hope. But Trump's making it sound like it is war now with our planes being shot down. So I don't know. I think it's going to get crazy. Buckle up, put your seatbelts on. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So enough with the Iran talk. I got to finish this up quick. I did the No Kings protest satire at the beginning. But hey, I got to give it to you, Democrats and liberals. It was a success. It was a success. Your No Kings protest was a success because we still have no kings protesting the country. So, yeah, good job. Keep up the good work, you protesters. You keep saying no kings because, yeah, there is no king. There's no king running this country. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I just got to point out that remember when the Democratic Party swapped out Joe Biden for Kamala Harris and people voted for Kamala Harris for a president, even though she didn't have any votes? Nobody voted for her to be the candidate, but we just did it anyway. Yeah, I didn't see anybody say no kings for that one. So yeah, you gotta explain yourself. All right, I gotta wrap this up. So I'm gonna try to do this last bit of news. Sorry that I'm clearing my throat. I don't know why my throat feels so dry. I just don't know. The Supreme Court ruling. There was a Supreme Court ruling. There was two Supreme Court related pieces of news in recent news. But the main one that I was going to talk about is the conversion therapy one. Is that the Supreme Court justices agreed 8-1 that the conversion therapy, that's what it's being labeled, conversion therapy lawsuit, it's a freedom of speech issue. And the only thing I have to say about that is, well, a couple of things. But I've been hearing this from the left side of the political aisle that, conversion therapy is bad. That conversion therapy is basically telling, well, the picture you get in your head is that someone's hooked up to a machine with electrodes being shocked to them. And if they think they're gay, we got to zap the gay out of them. And they got to be straight. And no, that's not what conversion therapy is. Now, I have the position that all therapy is conversion therapy. All therapy is conversion therapy. Because what are you doing if you were to seek therapy? Your goal is to convert your way of thinking from an unhealthy state of mind to a healthy state of mind. So essentially you're converting from one way of thinking to another way of thinking. So when you're seeking help for something, you should be able to seek help and find someone to walk you through whatever it is the issue that you're going through. I mean, just imagine someone who is anorexic, they have anorexia. Well, how do you treat that person? Do you tell them, oh, no, you're really fat. You got to stop eating. No, that'd be a horrible way to treat someone with anorexia. What you would want to do is to show them, to tell them, and walk them through, because anorexia is a mental illness. Someone thinks that they're overweight when they're skeleton thin. Is you have to, well, I'm not a therapist, but you got to be careful and really guide them through a better way of thinking, a better way of looking at yourself. So essentially, you want them to convert from one way of thinking to another way of thinking. And someone's knocking on the door. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. It was my daughter. They just got back from the Getty Museum and she was excited to see me. So sweet, so sweet. But it threw me off. When she knocks on the door, it throws me off. So I'm going to try to go back to what I was saying. Hey, that's just part of being a parent. You know, your kids need you. Your kids will need you. And you, as a parent, should be there for them every single time. I'm going to die on that hill. Be a good parent. Be there for your children. Tend to them when they need tending to. Okay, anyway, going back to what I was saying about conversion therapy. So yeah, an anorexic person, they do need to convert from this unhealthy way of thinking into a healthy way of thinking, that you are beautiful, you're created perfect, and yeah, you're not fat, but you know, you're the way you look doesn't define who you are. You're created special in God's image, and what you're actually doing is hurting yourself, and we don't want to see you hurt yourself. So yeah, it's like a surgeon. They have to be very careful, go in with the scalpel and know how to talk to their patient. So essentially, what was this case about, the Supreme Court case? It's a counselor or a therapist was being limited on how she could talk to her clients or patients. And the Supreme Court ruled that it's a free speech issue. You have freedom of speech in this country, and there's nothing wrong with helping someone that maybe, let's say they have gender dysphoria. You have a small child that thinks they're in the wrong body, which that's impossible because you're given a body and you are your body. You are your body, your soul, and your spirit, whatever you want to call it, soul, spirit, similar, and your mind. And to think that there's something wrong with you because you were born a certain way, to me, it sounds like there's other issues at play. But then again, you know, kids go through puberty and they start feeling all kinds of weird emotions. So you just gotta, in my opinion, you gotta walk a person through those things and say, look, you're just going through puberty. Everyone goes through it. There's nothing wrong with how you're feeling. Your body's just adjusting. You're growing up, and that's completely normal. And if a talk therapist just wants to talk to their child and, you know, walk them through these things that, you know, a child might be dealing with, I don't think you have to automatically go towards the route of, oh yeah, you are born in the wrong body. Yeah, let's put you on some puberty blockers now. You know, that's not the position that I hold. I don't agree with that. I think before you start putting any children on any kind of drugs or the puberty blockers, you should first do an actual therapy session with a therapist, some counseling, some guidance, talk to a pastor or something to guide you through these things that everyone goes through. I mean, obviously a parent should go through it, but then again, you need the parents to also not be indoctrinated with certain sexual orientation things, but instead know that you are made perfect in the image of God. You are God's creation, made in the image of God. You're not perfect. I mean, we all sin. Okay, we all sin. I sin, but we're not mistakes. And just because we have certain feelings, yes, we should have people around us to help walk us through those things in life where, you know, we might feel a certain way. But what else do I want to say about the Supreme Court ruling is, the only Supreme Court justice that dissented was, just take a wild guess. Just take a wild guess. Who do you think was the one person on the court that said something dumb? Yeah, Ketanji Brown Jackson. The one who was, when she was being confirmed and she was asked, what is a woman? She was like, I'm not a biologist, so I can't talk about that. So you don't know what a woman is, but you do know what therapy is. Okay. And I'm not claiming that I'm a therapist or I know a lot about psychology or a lot about biology. I'm none of those things. But what I do know is that 2 + 2 = 4. And not that 2 + 2 = 5, okay? I know that boys are boys. I know that girls are girls. And boys can't biologically turn into girls. And girls can't biologically turn into boys. And anyone that says otherwise, I guess they're discounting science altogether because it's just not possible. Reality always wins. I'm going to, you know what? That's enough for today. I don't want to go on any longer. Thank you for visiting the podcast. Please like, subscribe, rate, review, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Don't forget that Easter is a Christian holiday where Christians celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And no, we're not getting down on our knees to worship a bunny or nature. No. We worship Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, because he died for our sins. He was killed, put in a tomb. 3 days later, he wasn't in the tomb anymore, and people saw him. There were so many eyewitness accounts. Jesus was raised from the dead, and he did that for you because he loves you so much. So happy Easter, happy Resurrection Day, however you want to describe it. Jesus loves you. He's alive. And don't forget, keep up the faith.